Hi, my name is Dirk Burton, and I'm going to tie the Cajun Tickler. It's a fly that has a woven body component to it, and we'll go ahead and get started here. Okay, I've started, put a bead on a Tiemco 2302 hook, size 12, and put a jam knot behind it and started my thread. I'm going to wrap the thread all the way back to part way into the curve of the hook. This is regular embroidery floss. It's kind of a buff color, and I'll break out, there are 6 strands in embroidery floss, and I'm going to break out 2 strands of the buff and 2 strands of the olive. I'm going to take some golden pheasant crest, tie that in on top.
And you can, most of the time it works out pretty well.
Bring your thread forward. Slip the floss underneath. Tie it in on the side. Take the other strand, tie it in on the other side.
You can stripe it or put spots in it wherever you think appropriate.
I like to build a tapered body, so I'll take the tag end of that thread and bring it about halfway back, and tuck it under, and that helps build up the underbody in a nice tapered shape. Then I'll take some fluorescent thread for a little accent and tie that in on the top.
Different color miracle on it? Yeah, use yellow. I've actually stacked it and made dark white on the bottom and then darker. The painting doesn't make a whole lot of difference.
Yeah, you can do this without cutting the thread, but
the movement's important.
It's a little easier if you cut the thread. Now I take the darker strand of thread and put it behind the lighter strand. Bring the lighter one back through the back side. Separate it out to where the dark, I have a hole in the knot basically. It's an overhand knot. Separate it out to where the dark thread goes on top of the hook and the light thread goes under the hook. And at this point I'm going to pull that accent thread through. And I'm going to trim it because it's going to be in the way.
Okay, well that's for coming to tie.
So now I tie 2 overhand knots over the accent.
Spring is north of town. Spring branches in area.
And then I'll do the next 2 overhand knots under the accent strip.
It's a big booming place. God, it just keeps
The next 2 go over. This is basically a variation of the checker weave, but instead of having 3 or 4 strands that you're weaving in and out, you've just got this one accent strand that you're weaving in and out of your overhand knots. Next 2 go under.
I'm going to teach you something.
The main thing about doing this weaving is you have to be consistent in the pressure you use to tie these knots, and that'll make the lateral lines on the side of the fly nice and even.
This is really neat.
I like to get 3 dots on the top of this fly with the accent strip, and that's leaving me enough room to do the legs and the peacock curl up front. Do a jam knot to start behind the bead. Gather up all the tag ends, and right behind the bead put a couple of wraps.
Any color you want.
Take 3 nice thick strands of peacock herl. I like to tie this in by the tips because as I work with it I can keep it kind of fluffy.
Now we're having a rendezvous next week. The first week in November.
Tie that back to the point where your weaving stops and let it hang behind. Take some centipede legs, two strands. Lay one strand across the top and tie it in with crisscross wraps very lightly. Don't put any pressure on it at this point. And pull down and put pressure on it.
Get some contrast.
Once I get that top leg in, I put a little drop of head cement there to kind of hold it in place. Palm work forward, over, leg, around the head, back over the legs in the opposite direction. And tie that in on top. And don't trim it, just leave it.
Our friend Dave gave me this terminology. I was telling him about these flies.
Take another section of the legs.
No, that's called clipping. I said, Dave, I thought I understood. Oh, deer hair tire, you got to put all kinds of extra stuff on it.
And tie the other one in on the other side. Make sure everything looks pretty even.
This is my favorite twister because it's got so much immersion. Unfortunately, they make and sell these little narrow things. You know, that's fine if you want to sit here and twist it. You want to give it a good spin.
Bring your thread back to just in front of the woven body. Take the other two strands of peacock herl, wrap them around.
Also, I end up getting more hair on it because of the tighter base.
And in between the other legs.
I like that. Hold it here, so hold it here. I'll give it a spin down here.
Tie that in on top of the hook as well.
Sometimes it wraps up on itself and pull out like this.
Almost finished.
You can get something like a fiber out. So this basically is a hackle.
Now bring these up over the back. Trim off the excess.
Erotic in the water. I like rabbits better than video. Yeah, I do too. Got hung up on it.
Use a whip finishing tool. And one thing I like to do is whip finish it one way and then come back in the opposite direction and put in 3 or 4. And that secures the knot, so even if it slips, it won't back out entirely.
I love you very much. Thank you.
A little head cement. And that's the finished Cajun Tickler.